Hello from UPV. My name is Javier Orozco and I'm going to speak now about the sustainability dimension, the different elements that we have to consider when studying and assessing a sustainability problem, specifically within cities. The framework we should be dealing with is a city. As you can see on the image, the city is a very complex system where we have to consider physical elements like infrastructure, like green elements provided throughout the city, of course the building, the interrelation of people, and all of them are leading us into different wicked sustainability problems. By wicked, what we mean actually is that they are very difficult. They don't have even a solution. They have to be approached from very different points of view with different criteria. And trying to see how we can go through the different difficulties leads into a solution which is very positive and the way to really assess sustainability problems. Then we'll apply all this to an integration of all the different elements for the design of urbanism in the city, and finally through the different case studies approach the 7 questions to sustainability. So let's begin by people who provided the framework for analysis. The first of all was Louis Mumford, who actually was born on the 19th century, and he was the last humanist in the sense that people think that he was one of these people which really tackled not only with technical problems, with social issues, but were very much concerned on the general overview, which is something we are lacking today and is essential for approaching the program. Later, Donella Meadows took over from a more technological point of view. She studied at Harvard, did his main research work at MIT, and began to see where we were leading, which actually was find the limits to growth and stating the first approach into a life cycle analysis, which later Bill McDonough and Michael Braungart established into the cradle-to-cradle assessment, which is one of the main certifications which are currently existing for buildings and for overall performance of the relation of building with people. Later, Janine Benius approached the different perspectives from the point of view of nature. The problems are not new. Nature have studied all these problems and trying to imitate by biomimicry what nature is doing to solve the problems is providing a lead into the solution of all of them. Finally, James Kay is providing the current most interesting approach into dealing with sustainability problems through ecosystem services and seeing how all the different activities we perform are related in an eco-environment. But first, let's start with the typical economical cycle that we have. We start from raw materials, we manufacture them, distribute them, and we use them. So the problem actually is not this cycle, but the inputs and the outputs. The inputs are not infinite, and we have to tackle with the output. This life cycle thinking for products and consumption is what should be setting the paradigm and should help us into centering the analysis on how to deal with all the sustainability problems. Which leads us into a first approach, which is currently most favored in the research program from many big institutions like European Union, and actually is considered as the best approach for providing a world on which we can live for many years, the cycle economic infrastructure. Actually, it's the same cycle that we have been addressing, but connected at the end through recovery, recycle, and reuse, because we start with different raw materials, natural resources, we manufacture them in different ways, the infrastructure provided for dealing with the different elements of the city, provide a habitat, which end finally in the end of life for a building, which is to landfill, waste, or starting the virtual cyclic approach to economy, which is through recovery, recycle, and reuse. So setting the pace on how close we are to inputting, constructing our economic activities in this cycle is basic for the long-lived performance of cities and humanity in the end. So these problems that we are going to introduce now, which are called weak sustainability problems, are to be addressed, are to be faced and evaluated through this life cycle thinking. So things related to resource scarcity, the input of our cycle, climate change, so is the different waste problems, CO2 and some other problems related to water and delivery of undesirable waste, and other similar problems are related to closing this circle. All of them are key for obtaining economic value and provide multiple impacts onto the lives of people, the performance of society, and should be addressed from an overall general perspective. Obviously, they are very complex, and in most cases we don't know the results we could be achieving by changing different elements. So we have, first of all, to understand how all these elements are connected without doing anything else. Obviously, there is no actual law. There are all of them interrelated and messy in that sense. And when approached from different points of view, create huge polemic discussions which don't have a unique solution. So in that sense, what we should is try to analyze our impact, assess the performance of our system, and then try to evaluate with different objectives what the outputs could be, and establish some preferences, some actual objective desired outputs, which is the case for really making sense to the solution of the problem. When applied to a city, the overall environment on which we are working is called the urban metabolism. The different interrelation of all these elements are tackled through different inputs and outputs. So our city is governed by a metabolism which should be considered and evaluated. We don't have actually a unique mathematical formula or physical principle governing all these interrelations, especially when related to people and different points of view, different preferences and objectives. So the different priorities are also part of the solution of the problem and the evaluation. In that sense, what we have to do is try to understand this interrelation, this urban metabolism, through the different variables that we can measure in the system, and then try to assess how we can get closer to our desired prioritized solution, and in that sense find a solution. The way to integrate all this infrastructure is through different projects, which should be first addressed by the different constraints, the design principles, the evaluation of the different monitorings and data for the problems, then try to understand the interrelation of how things are going, and for that the key approach is transdisciplinarity, because through that what we are actually creating is a higher knowledge than the actual input on the different individual elements. We can all add our knowledge and provide a very integrative solution. In that sense is interdisciplinary approach and knowledge building, which is very scarce in that sense. When by a common assumption, let's call, as Montfort said, that humanitarian, that overall point of view out of the system, we can create new knowledge. Is that what is really desired and needed in order to finding and evaluating solutions? The different case studies have to be addressed by establishing goals, strategies, and the attributes which are our monitoring elements. We have to provide all them within a matrix, see how they are interrelating and performing in order to provide solutions. For example, if our city has to address a net zero carbon footprint for the city, for the energy provided to the city, one of the solutions would be to maximize solar energy use. Put more solar panels into the city and create more renewable energy power, which is influencing the layout, is influencing the way people work, is influencing many other things, and also is very limited in the final solution because the actual installing of the panels, as we saw in a previous nugget, is only providing energy at different sun available times, which is not a solution for everything. We need also to store, we need a grid to manage, and then we have also to try and save energy, which is in most of the cases the human approach, the best combined approach to the solution. In the end, we have to face always these questions, which are the basis for assessing sustainability and which are called the 7 questions for sustainability. Actually, we have to begin with engagement, meaning people have to be involved, they have to be into the problem where they are facing the specific situation. They have to embed themselves on the actual solution. People, attitude and well-being is one desirable parametric element which we will have to evaluate together with environment, economy, and other transversal non-traditional or non-market activities. In the end, we need some governance to the laws which are all presented by the government, which are a result actually of policies and how we, through politicians, govern our future, are doing the interconnection of all these elements in order to provide through some synthesis a continuous learning on the outcomes and solutions. And well, this is all I had to say about the topic. Thank you very much, and remember, these are the limits for using this video. Thank you very much.